everyone, welcome to another Journalist Toolbox training. I'm Mike Reilley, founder and editor of the Journalist Toolbox. Today we're in part 2 of our business resources training. We're going to look at tools that you can use to background public and private companies. Before we get started, I just wanted to point out journalisttoolbox.org, which is housed at the Society of Professional Journalists. It's been there for 15 years. This is a website that I've been updating for the last quarter century. It has all kinds of topics of interest to journalists, transcription tools, how to find expert sources, data journalism, public records, copy editing, fact checking, all kinds of different topics. You can find them all listed in this pull-down menu on the right-hand side, organized much like a newsroom is, all these different subtopics. What we're going to explore today are business resources. We have business resources broken down into several categories, kind of the broad economy, holiday retail, sports business, stock market, business news sites, labor issues, international business, all kinds of cool things. What we're going to dig into today is this little area called investigating companies. We have a recent updates here at the top. How to investigate publicly traded companies are right here. And then investigating private companies and startups, which is a little more challenging, down here at the bottom, and as well as a few tips for looking into private companies. So that's the page we'll be working with. Our handout for today is this bit.ly link, bit.ly/Google Finance Tools. If you open that up, we're going to be on part 2 of this. Part 1 of the video was Google Finance Tools, which was part 1. We just completed that training video. If you haven't watched it yet, just go to our YouTube channel listed here, and you can watch that training video. So hit pause for a minute and open up this bit.ly/Google Finance Tools page. All right, welcome back. I should point out that this link is also available in the description of our YouTube video, as always. But as long as you've got this handout open, you're good to go. Scroll down on the page, down to the 4th page, where we have part 2, background in companies and charities. The first tool we're going to look at is the SEC EDGAR Database. This is for pulling basic proxy information on a company, as well as its annual earnings reports, things like that. So if you go to sec.gov, it has the EDGAR database there. You can click on this link that'll take you directly there. Very simple tool to use. You can enter the name of the company, its stock ticker symbol, or CIK number. I'll just type in Aon for a large insurance company here in Chicago. And it kicks back to you some basic information here, all of its latest financial filings. You can view them as a full list over here. EDGAR does have a little resources page here that walks you through how to look at it. But most of the interesting stuff for journalists is over here on the right-hand side. Recent filings, all their current reports, their annual report. You can see their last one for quarterly earning report was at the end of October for ending September 30th. Their annual meeting is coming up in, it looks like April 15th, and it looks like they have something, a preliminary one on March 26th. I think they release the statements there, and then they kind of go over them a little more in depth right around tax day. And then also their ownership disclosures down here. But you can pull their annual reports. You can pull any of their current reports or their quarterly reports as well. Here you can open them up. They'll give you some basic information up here. You can scroll down here. A lot of times it comes with instructions too on what some of the different categories mean and things like that. The footnotes under here often explain some of these categories. It's very important too, to double check the numbers, make sure are they in millions or billions, especially with the scale of a lot of these large companies. But all this financial data is in here. They do often put in, a lot of spin down here in some of these numbers, as their investors are looking at these, so you always need to take that into consideration when you're going through them. But there is some explanatory text in here that's pretty good in most of these. So the SEC EDGAR database, it's a good way to pull their Form 10Qs. and get a good quick snapshot of the health of that company and what's going on with it. The next one on our list is Violation Tracker. This is one of my favorites. It is put out by an organization called Good Jobs First. It is a nonpartisan nonprofit. It tracks all kinds of infractions, everything from coming from state attorney general's offices, state regulatory agencies, federal regulatory agencies, basically anybody that's done something wrong, either financially or has done something to hurt the environment. Maybe it's a workplace safety issue. Maybe it's unfair labor practices. Anybody that's really screwed up is going to appear in here, and this is good for archival purposes. Going back and, let's say you're doing a story on a company and you want to see, hey, if they, had a bad track record with the environment, or have they had a bad track record with, their tax documents? Have there been civil and criminal cases filed against them by, hundreds of agencies? There's billions of dollars that are exchanging hands in here. They always summarize it here at the top. More than $724 billion worth of infractions in here. So this interface looks really confusing to work with, but as soon as you kind of figure out how to use it, it's quite simple. You can call the pull down menu here. Will list parent companies that you can pull from. You also can search by industry. So if you're covering, just the airline industry, you can pull all the fractions for the airline industry. Type of offense too. You can look for accounting offenses, agribusiness. So these are kind of broad searches up here under the summaries, which you're looking at, kind of the broader topics, and we'll get into the more specific under option 2, which is search. You can search by federal agency. So if you want to see, federal, the FCC violations, Verizon has some FCC violations in here, AT&T, T-Mobile. You can go in and open them up, and you can see a lot of dollars here that are changing hands. The more specifics are down here, along with the dollar amounts that they had to pay, and there's a lot of money here. These are pretty heavy fines that some of these companies have had to pay. Environmental too, you'll see in environmental categories, there's a lot. So you can look by agency at the federal level or at the state and local level too. So I can go in here and let's see what Illinois throws at me here. Their Department of Labor. We can see who's gotten in trouble here. U.S. Bank Corp, TIAA, boy, they handle my retirement funding. They've had a lot of fines against them, not just from the Labor Department, but federal regulatory commissions on how they handle investments. It makes me real uncomfortable at times, knowing that they've had a lot of infractions here. Everything from wage and their labor ones are wage and hour violations here, and some of these are relatively small. $2-3 million, $27,000. But some of these get pretty heavy, up into $97 million, where they've had some violations for benefit plans and things like that. So there's a lot of money that changes hands in these categories. So for your broader searches, use these pull down menus under the summaries. Down here, if you're just pulling up a basic company or something like that, you can go in here and just type in the company's name. So if I wanted to, again, search Aon and see what violations they had, they would show up in here as well. That will narrow your searches down. Other categories down here, you can break it down, again, by federal agency and things like that. The year, that's a very important, it goes back to 2000. Anything prior to 2000, I believe you'd have to file a FOIA for with that particular agency. This just pulls and scrapes all those government records and lists them here. Also, different types of facilities. If you're covering agriculture industry, there's a lot of different industries listed in there. You can pull them up by state as well, and it'll give you, even down to the city level, in great detail. You can narrow down your searches. So that's Violation Tracker, a really good one if you've got companies that are in your coverage area or in your industry area that you think have had maybe a bad track record. You go out and actually find those infractions and attribute them to the violation tracker and to the agencies that find them. I should point out too, they have a little newsroom thing up here with press releases when they come across something that's really big. They'll put out a little press announcement on it. I think you can get on a mailing list for that. They also have a tax break and subsidy tracker. And a little over a year ago, they started this stimulus watch where they looked into a lot of stimulus grants and stimulus loans and a lot of the infractions involved in that. And you can see some of the fake claims people have made under the list of rewards, refunds that have come back, things like that. Again, these were all tracked during the coronavirus aid relief and the CARE Act, basically. They're all listed here, so you can go in and look them up and find them. There's been some really outrageous violations in here that you can go and dig through. Guidestar is a good tool. It's listed right here on your list. I'll go over both of these kind of as a group, Guidestar and ProPublica and Nonprofit Explorer. If you're looking into a charity in your area, Guidestar.org is a great tool. It does charge to use it unless you have a .edu email address, then you can set up a free account. It allows you to search for Form 990s. Form 990s are what are filed by nonprofit organizations, charities, churches, things like that, that list their revenues and expenditures. And within those documents, you can really track the financial health or any infractions that charity might be having. So I'm going to type one in here, Chicago Cubs Charities. They're located right down the street from me in Chicago. And the paid version of Guidestar allows you to open up the Form 990s as well as see a snapshot of this. Check and see if your newsroom has a paid account on here. If you're involved in a large chain, more than likely you have a password for that. You can get in and access this data. Or if you have a .edu email, you can get into it as well. So I'll click on Cubs Charities here. It gives me kind of an overview of the company, where it's located, the ruling year, it's formed in 1987, the EIN number. Over here, they have the tax form. It says Show Forms 990. It looks just like a regular tax document. It's a little behind in updating. It's only got 2019. It doesn't have 2020 in there yet. I have a feeling COVID had something to do with that. And this is the tax form that Chicago Cubs Charities had to file in 2019. You can go down here on the left-hand side and do some quicker navigation. Let me go down here around page 7. Page 7, 7 or 8 on most of these, you'll see the list of officers, directors, trustees, and key employees and their highest compensated employees. I usually go and look at that first and see, who's drawing money from this charity and what are they being paid. We'll look into another website that's helpful for that in a minute. But on the Form 990, you see, the Ricketts family, which owns the Cubs. Pete Ricketts is the governor of my home state, Nebraska. Tom Ricketts is the chairman of the Chicago Cubs. They put in, about an hour a week. They do have an executive director, Alicia Gonzalez, who puts in 30 hours a week. She's actually paid through the Chicago Cubs to run this charity. So it shows nothing here. So nothing comes out of the charity. These are all volunteer board positions. Crane Kenny, the president of the Cubs, draws no salary for doing this. So, they're pretty clean here as far as drawing any salaries from it. Go down to page 35. You have to scroll through these. There's a lot of documents in here, and different listings, a lot of blank pages as well. This is an interesting one, part 2, where it gets into fundraising events. If you have a local charity, look at how much money came in, how much were they spending to put on that event. The Chicago Tribune did this a few years ago. They looked at a lot of the pro athlete charities in Chicago and found that they were throwing these lavish parties and events, but not raising any money from them, from their galas and their player, in this case, a player event. So you can look at the financial health of some of these organizations pretty quickly just by scrolling through and looking at this page. There's just a couple of pages on it, but it's very helpful. I'm going to scroll down a couple pages to page 37 here. This lists all of the expenditures, all the payouts the Cubs charities had. They give money to other charities and other organizations. And here's where you can track it, and you see things they give to a lot of sports foundations. Anthony Rizzo Foundation, their former first baseman. They gave that one a cash grant of around $53,000. Rizzo donates a lot of money to cancer charities. He's a cancer survivor. He also gives money to the Parkland high school shooting victims and their families. He went to Parkland High School where they had the mass shooting not long ago. And there's other sports-related charities in here. One of them that I've always tracked this charity pretty closely because I live right on the borderline of Wrigleyville and what they call Boys Town or North Halstead area, which is Chicago's largest gay community. It's a neighborhood that has a lot of gay bars in it. The Center on Halstead, which is right here, Center on Halstead. They gave him $25,000. Center on Halstead's a community center that has done wonders with counseling HIV and AIDS victims, all kinds of things. They help with the Gay Pride Parade in Chicago every year, of which the Cubs have a big float in. Cubs also put on a big Pride game where they have the players wear Pride colors, things like that. Very open and accepting. But the amazing thing about this is the Cubs, of all the money they give out, and they give out money to a lot of charities, Cubs charities have not given money to gay charities until 2019. They gave $25,000 to the Center on Halstead. That was the first time in years that they've donated any money to a gay charity. And Laura Ricketts, who's openly gay, is on the board of directors of the Chicago Cubs. We always felt that was a very interesting thing to look at. It's who they're giving the money to. Where's the money going? And this is a good way to track it. Look for those little quirks in there. And those become questions. You're supportive of a lot of children, cancer related, very noble causes. But what aren't you giving to? Or what are you saying you're giving to? And we can check here and see that you're not. So that's the Form 990s and Guidestar. You also can look them up in ProPublica's Nonprofit Explorer. I love this tool. So we'll look at Chicago Bulls charities here, and you can pull them up. It also lists on their homepage the largest charities in the country. This one has a 2020 Form 990, so it's a little more current. So you can call it up here and blow it up and go through and look through this. You also can download them. You can download the PDFs of these out of Guidestar as well. So it's easy to pull these out, even print them out of here. Interesting thing about ProPublica, on its homepage, it lists the largest charities, as you can see right down here, and the amount of money that they're bringing in. In the billions. These are big charities. Cover charities like a corporation because that is what they are. They have not updated this. They have updated it actually up into November of 2021 now. Some of their databases they've been a little slow to update, but it is fairly recent. I'm recording this just about a month after they've updated this, so it's fairly current. And you can break it down by state or by category too if you want to isolate just your state or just a certain type of nonprofit if you're just looking for health or religion-based ones or whatever. So that is the Nonprofit Data Explorer. Another good tool to look at is Charity Watch. This is another independent nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that rates charities and grades them out. If you contribute to Charity Watch, you get the paid version. You can go in and see the grades for each of the charities. And if your newsroom does have a paid version of this, it's a good thing to look at. It's built for donors. How to donate over here smartly. But the one area that's free in here that's of interest to journalists is top compensation. Top compensation, you can click on this and find the highest paid executives. Craig Thompson from Sloan Kettering is making $5.7 million a year. Unlike the Cubs charities where they all volunteer their time or work it into their daily workflow at their job, these folks are pulling in a lot of money here. J.C. Watts, if you were a college football fan in the 1970s, remember that he was a great quarterback at the University of Oklahoma, wishbone quarterback for him. He's also a former U.S. congressman from the state of Oklahoma. 1.8 million he's drawn from the Feed the Children Oklahoma charity. It's based in Oklahoma City. So he's making some pretty good money there. As you scroll down, you'll see, let's see, number 8 here. National Rifle Association. Wayne LaPierre draws in a cool 1.8. And as I open this up, it'll also list other executives as well. Okay, and you can pull into the financial statements. There's their top salaries. Ollie North, he's a board director. Makes just under $1 million. I believe he's no longer in this organization. I think there was some extortion issues with him. I believe he left the NRA. Josh Powell, too, is drawn in. Their chief of staff draws a pretty good salary. Now, there's some benchmarks and things that you can't see in here because you have to have a paid version of it to see the grade and things like that. So if you donate up here and create a login, you can see the whole picture of it. But at least it gives you the salaries on the free version of Charity Watch. They have a blog that flags a lot of newsworthy things in it. I believe they have a newsletter too. If you go through here and look at some of them, but you can go through these pull-down menus and find a lot of really good stuff. But Top Compensation is really the one that I wind up using the most. A couple other tools of interest. Dollars for Docs. You can type in your doctor's name in here or a doctor's name in here. If you're thinking about using somebody as an expert source in a story, this is a good thing to do. See if that doctor's being paid millions of dollars to say good things about that product or about that medicine or whatever it is that you're interviewing them about. So you can see over here, some doctors make millions of dollars from these pharmaceutical companies. You'll see some familiar ones in here. There's Pfizer, there's AstraZeneca, a lot of big players in the COVID world. You'll see a lot of neurosurgeons and ophthalmologists, plastic surgeons draw big money because they help design surgical equipment. So they're drawing millions of dollars, and of course they're going to go out and say good things about that equipment. They are being paid to say so. I run my doctor's name through here. I'm a little curious what my GP is up to. Mark Stoller, there he is in Chicago. About $1,900. He went and spoke at a conference, it looks like, and they covered some of his expense money and things like that. They'll cover vacations, all kinds of things, in here. But AstraZeneca, paid him to speak at an event, covered his food and beverage. Didn't appear to cover travel costs unless it was figured into this total here. Use this tool. It's really good, especially if you're going to be quoting a doctor as an expert source. In a medical story, run them through here first. It has been a little while since they've updated this one. It goes back to 2019, but still it can give you a pretty good snapshot. Dollars for Profs. This is also any university researchers' outside income and any conflicts of interest. I teach at the University of Illinois at Chicago. I have to fill out a little declaration of conflicts of interest every September. And that form goes in and is listed in UIC's database of potential conflicts of interest. So I have to say I do work with the Society of Professional Journalists. I do work with Google. I do work with Gannett. If there's any conflicts of interest in there, and most of them just go by the wayside. They're nothing that has anything of any importance. So I could type my name in here. And I shouldn't show up in this database. We'll see if I do. But if you're going to interview a professor on a certain subject, see if they have any conflicts of interest. Where it's interesting is you can jump to the state down here and call up your state's universities, and you can open it up. And again, a lot of them are doctors. The university hospitals, will show up here. But there's also others that do consulting. Business professors, things like that, and it shows how much they're earning and what year they filed that conflict of interest, because universities do check up on that. So that is our handout on, or our training video on backgrounding companies and charities. So take each one of these tools and kind of spend a little time with it. Look up some of your local companies in here. Look up some of your local doctors and professors, expert sources. One more tool that I wanted to point it out. At the start of this video, I showed you how to investigate companies, public and private, the journal's Toolbox resource page. This is just an invaluable tool all kinds of tools here, including the ones we just covered. So take advantage of those resources. And two, if you're investigating a startup or maybe an investment company that's doing angel investing into startups, they don't have to do the 10C form for the SEC like publicly traded companies do. But there are SEC filings on them. They have to fill out what's called a Form D. This formds.com website tracks those in real time as they're filed in the SEC. So you can find out about a lot of these new investments even before other media outlets do. If it's not in your area and you haven't heard about it, you can start going through here. You've got a tip that there might be some investment coming from a new .com in your area or something like that. It has newest form filings around the country and also local forms, investments into a specific city or region that you can go through here, and you'll see they're listed alphabetical, and I can take a look at all the startups and what their funding is reported to be, and so on. So it tells me if it's a new filing or an amended one, if there has been more investment made in it. These go back. It is searchable, so you can search just right up here. So this is good if you're looking into startups and growing businesses. This is a good way to dig into those. Formds.com. So that's all I had for now. We are going to do a third part to our training videos here. Part 3 will be on Google Flourish and visualizing some business data in Google Flourish. So look for that one next month. It'll be March of 2022 that video hits, early March. And we'll also have all 3 of these videos in a Google playlist once they're all posted. And you'll be able to watch them on YouTube in a playlist. So that's all I had for now. We'll see you.